What would you do if your only son, the one for whom you sold your car and mortgaged your home to pay off his debts, banned you from his wedding simply because your calloused hands embarrassed him? Caleb Sullivan lied to his wealthy in-laws, claiming his mother had died years ago. He thought he had erased his impoverished past. But he was dead wrong. That mother is very much alive. She is standing right there at the wedding, wearing a janitor's uniform, silently placing a package wrapped in cheap butcher paper on the banquet table. Inside isn't gold or silver, but a verdict that will bring the groom to his knees on the most glamorous stage of his life. What could be inside that box that holds such devastating power? Some pain knows no borders, and some truths, no matter how cruel, must be exposed. Before the curtain is lifted, please take a second to let us know in the comments where in the world you are listening from. And now, let's witness the tearful yet powerful lesson taught by this extraordinary mother. The old alarm clock rings at 3:45 inches the morning. It's not necessary. Patricia Patty Sullivan, whom everyone calls Patty, is already awake. Her eyes, tired but firm, contemplate the cracked ceiling of the small trailer where she lives. The sun hasn't even thought about coming out, but Patty's life doesn't wait for the sun. She gets up in silence. The linoleum floor creaks under her bare feet. Outside, in the darkness of Spencer, Indiana, only the distant crowing of an early rooster and the whistling of the wind against the thin walls of the trailer can be heard. Another day, dear God, give me strength, she murmurs as she turns on the stove to heat the coffee she made last night. At 4:20, Patty is already in the old Ford Taurus Model 98 that cost her years of savings. The car protests with a metallic noise before starting. It will be almost 2 hours on the road to Carmel, the wealthy suburb of Indianapolis, where she cleans 5 different mansions every week. The radio plays softly. A country song talks about betrayal and heartache. Patty smiles ironically. If they only knew, she says to the emptiness of the car. At 6:15 sharp, Patty parks in front of a brick mansion with white columns. Her hands, already cracked by years of chemicals, adjust her worn rubber gloves. Mrs. Jessica doesn't even greet her when she opens the door. The master bedroom needs a deep clean, the woman orders without looking her in the eyes. My daughter had a party last night, and there is wine spilled on the carpet on the second floor. Patty nods and begins her routine. Scrubbing, cleaning, polishing, disinfecting, kneeling to reach corners, stretching to clean lamps, bending down to pick up other people's trash. Every movement is a reminder of her place in this world. 8 hours later, with her back burning and her knees protesting, Patty receives her payment in cash. Mrs. Jessica doesn't thank her. She never does. In the car, Patty counts the money twice before putting it in an envelope marked emergencies. She takes 5 minutes to eat a cold sandwich she made in the early morning. She doesn't have time for more. The afternoon is consumed in 2 other houses. More floors to clean, more bathrooms to disinfect, more orders to obey with a smile that doesn't reach her eyes. At 7:30 at night, she finally returns to her trailer in Spencer. The sun is gone, just like her energy. But Patty's day is not over. At the small kitchen table, under the yellowish light of a cheap lamp, she takes out her sewing machine. It's an antique Singer she rescued from the trash of one of the houses she cleans. She repaired it herself. She unfolds the bright pink fabric of a prom dress. Mrs. Barbara's daughter is celebrating next month. Patty promised to finish the embroidery this week. Her fingers, expert despite the fatigue, guide the fabric under the needle. The rhythmic hum of the machine is her only company. At 10:25, the phone rings. Patty smiles when she sees the name on the screen. Caleb, her only son, the reason for all her sacrifices. My son, what a joy to hear from you, she says with a voice that suddenly sounds 10 years younger. Mom, I have to talk to you about something important. Caleb's voice sounds distant, cold. Is something wrong? Do you need money? No, Mom, it's about the wedding. Patty stops sewing. Her heart races. I have the dress almost ready, sweetie. It's simple, but elegant, like you told me that. That's what I want to talk to you about. Caleb interrupts her. You won't be able to come to the wedding. The silence that follows is so deep that Patty can hear the beating of her own heart. What are you saying, son? Why can't I go? Harper's family are important people, Mom. Business owners, classy people. The wedding will be at the Grand Estate. Do you know how much each plate costs? I don't understand, Caleb. Patty's voice trembles. I'm your mother. Mom, you embarrass me with your clothes and the way you talk. Your accent is too hillbilly. You're going to ruin the photos. Harper's family is going to think I'm a nobody. Every word is a dagger slowly plunging into Patty's chest. She clings to the phone as if it were the only thing keeping her standing. Caleb, please. It's the most important day of your life. I've waited so long to see you married. I've worked day and night too. I've already made the decision, Mom. I don't want scenes. If you show up, I'll kick you out myself. A silent tear rolls down Patty's cheek. Just this once, son. I promise I won't talk to anyone. I can stay in a corner. No one will notice I'm there. I said no. Caleb's scream cuts through the phone like a whip. Don't insist. It's decided. Goodbye, Mom. The call ends. Patty stares at the phone in silence, as if waiting for it to ring again, for her son to tell her it was all a cruel joke. But the phone remains mute. With mechanical movements, Patty puts away the fabric of the dress she will no longer need. Her hands tremble as she opens a drawer and takes out an old notebook with worn leather covers. She opens it to a blank page and writes with firm letters, "Exactly 1 year until he learns." In her eyes, the pain has been replaced by something new, something that had never been there before: determination. The Indiana sun beats down mercilessly on the roof of the Sterling mansion. It's noon, but the air conditioning keeps the interior at a perfect 68 degrees. For Patty, however, sweat runs down her back as she wipes the huge windows on the second floor. 2 weeks have passed since Caleb's call. 2 weeks of sleepless nights, 2 weeks of planning. Today, for the first time, Patty is cleaning the Sterling mansion. It's not a coincidence. The cleaning agency assigned her after she insisted on covering for Susan, who mysteriously got sick after receiving $200 in cash from Patty's hands. "I need this job more than ever," Patty had told the supervisor. "My son is getting married soon, and I want to give him a good gift." The Sterling mansion is not just a house. It's a fortress of wealth and privilege. Italian marble on the floors, crystal chandeliers in every room, original paintings on the walls, photos of the Sterling family with politicians and celebrities. Patty cleans in silence, invisible, as she has always been to the rich. While vacuuming the Persian rug in the main hallway, she hears voices coming from the study. The door is ajar. "Honestly, Mom, I don't know what Caleb saw in that town before moving to Indianapolis. It's the voice of a young woman. It must be Harper, the bride. Don't be naive, honey." The second voice is more mature, authoritative. "Caleb saw our fortune and our connections. These guys from humble backgrounds are always looking for the same thing." Patty stops the vacuum. Her heart beats strongly, but she keeps her face impassive. She gets a little closer to the door, pretending to clean the frame with a rag. "And what about his family? Does he really have no one?" asks Harper. According to him, his father abandoned them when he was a boy, and his mother died years ago. Catherine Sterling lets out a disdainful little laugh. "Very convenient, don't you think? That way we don't have to deal with embarrassing relatives at the wedding." The rag in Patty's hand stops. Died years ago. Her own son has killed her with words. Being uninvited is painful, but being erased from existence entirely is a betrayal that cuts to the bone. Now that Patty knows the depth of her son's deception, the question isn't if she'll react, but exactly how she will make her presence known. "Well, as long as no drunk cousin shows up asking for money," Harper laughs. "Don't worry about that." Catherine's tone changes to a more serious one. "I already hired Michael. The private investigator, himself, is thoroughly investigating your future husband. Family background, debts, everything. I'm not going to allow a fortune hunter to get his hands on our assets." "Mom, don't you think you're exaggerating? Caleb works for Dad. We've known him for 2 years. Honey, don't be naive. Your father also believes he's a good boy. But men are easy to fool. A smile, a little flattery. I already hired the best lawyer to draft an ironclad prenuptial agreement." Patty backs away slowly with her heart hammering in her chest. She moves to the next hallway, where she resumes cleaning as if nothing had happened. Her mind, however, is a whirlwind. "My son said I'm dead. He lied to them about who he is. And now there is a detective investigating." At 2:15, while cleaning one of the 6 bathrooms in the mansion, she hears the phone ring and then Catherine's voice echoing down the hall. "Michael." "Yes, I'm alone. Tell me what you found." Patty stands motionless with the toilet brush in her hand. "What do you mean the mother is alive? That liar." Catherine sounds furious. "In Spencer, a cleaning lady? Oh my God, this is worse than I imagined. And the father? No records. I understand. A brief silence. No, don't say anything to Robert yet. My husband has a weakness for rags to riches stories. Another pause. Keep investigating. I want to know everything about that woman. If Caleb lied about this, what else is he hiding? Patty finishes cleaning the bathroom with mechanical movements. Her face reveals no emotion, but inside something has changed. The wound her son opened is now being filled with something new, something cold and calculating. At 3:30, while she cleans the kitchen, a short woman with a kind face enters carrying grocery bags. It's the cook. Oh, I didn't know they had hired someone new for cleaning, she says with a friendly accent. I'm Patty. But everyone calls me Patty. I'm covering for Susan. The woman leaves the bags on the counter and smiles at her. I'm Dorothy, but everyone calls me Dottie. I've been cooking for this family for 15 years. Patty nods and keeps cleaning. She doesn't have time for conversations. Not after what she just discovered. Are you from around here? Insists Dottie. From Spencer. Really? My nephew Tyler lives there. He's a DJ at parties. Patty barely responds with a murmur. Her mind is calculating, planning. The kitchen door bursts open, and Harper enters talking on the phone. Yes, Caleb, Mom already spoke with the decorator. Everything will be navy blue and silver, as we agreed. 600 confirmed guests. The most exclusive of Indianapolis will be there. Dottie and Patty instantly become invisible. Harper walks past them without looking at them, opens the refrigerator, and takes out a bottle of water. The final dress fitting. Tomorrow at 3. It's Vera Wang, honey. It cost more than the car you drive. She laughs disdainfully. Speaking of that, Dad says he'll buy you a BMW as a wedding gift. You won't have to be embarrassed by that Honda you have. Patty tenses up. That Honda is just like hers, the one she bought with years of savings so Caleb could go to college. Yes, we'll have to do something with your wardrobe too. You can't keep dressing like you just came out of a dusty town. Harper leaves the kitchen without closing the door, her voice fading down the hall. Did you see that? Dottie murmurs with indignation. She doesn't even look us in the face. Patty remains silent, scrubbing the counter with force. They are all like that, continues Dottie. For Miss Harper and her mother, we are furniture that cleans and cooks. Finally, Patty looks up. And Mr. Robert is like that too? Dottie shakes her head. Mr. Robert is different. He's tough in business, but fair. He comes from the bottom, you know? His father was a mechanic. He never forgets it. This information is carefully filed in Patty's mind. At 5:45, Patty finishes her shift. While gathering her cleaning supplies, Dottie approaches her again. Will you be here next week? Possibly. Patty hesitates a moment. Can I ask you something, Dottie? That guy Miss Harper was talking about. Caleb. Do you know him? Dottie's face hardens. Yes, he comes to dinner every week. A handsome boy, well-dressed, but... She lowers her voice. There's something in his eyes I don't like. When the family isn't looking, he treats us like trash. Once he yelled at me because I spilled a drop of sauce on his new shoe. Patty feels her heart contract. I see. Last week I heard him talking to Mrs. Catherine. They were saying something about a wedding without the groom's family, that it was better that way, more elegant. Dottie frowns. What kind of man doesn't invite his family to his wedding? The words hit Patty like a physical punch. Her knees go weak. Dottie notices the change in her face. Are you okay? You've turned pale. Patty nods. But something in her eyes must reveal the truth, because Dottie looks at her more closely. Do you know him? Do you know Caleb? A second of doubt, a moment of vulnerability that Patty cannot control. He's my son, she whispers so low it's barely heard. Dottie's eyes widen like saucers. In an instant, understanding crosses her face, followed by indignation and horror. Oh my God, her hands fly to her mouth. Your own son said you were dead. Patty doesn't answer. She doesn't need to. Without warning, Dottie wraps her arms around her. It's a strong, maternal hug, full of the understanding that can only come from another woman who has suffered. Oh, my child, Dottie whispers with tears in her eyes. What kind of son does something like that to the mother who brought him into the world? At that moment, in the kitchen of her enemies, surrounded by the luxury her son covets, Patty finds her first ally. And while Dottie hugs her crying, something hardens in Patty Sullivan's heart. Something that will never break again. The Sunday sun enters through the only window of Patty's trailer. In her hands, a satin pink dress with damaged ruffles and a soda stain that any other seamstress would have declared impossible to save. How my Emily cried, says Dottie, sitting in front of Patty at the small table. I saved for 6 months to buy her that dress for the dance. She put it on to try it, and her cousin spilled Coke on it. Patty examines the fabric with expert fingers. A delicious aroma floats in the small space, mixing with the smell of freshly brewed coffee. A pot boils slowly in the kitchen, releasing fragrances of beef, carrots, and spices. Outside, the neighbor's radio plays old Dolly Parton songs that mix with the clucking of chickens. "It can be fixed," says Patty. Her eyes are already calculating stitches, measurements, solutions. "I can redo this entire side using the excess fabric from the hem. For the stain, I have a trick I learned years ago." She gets up for a moment to check the pot bubbling in the small kitchen, stirs the contents carefully, and adjusts the heat. "What smells so good?" asks Dottie, momentarily distracted from the dress problem. "Homemade beef stew. My grandmother's recipe." Patty serves a small bowl and offers it to Dottie. "Try it." Dottie takes a spoonful and closes her eyes with delight. "Oh my God, Patty, this is incredible. Where did you learn to cook like this?" "From my mother, and she from hers." Patty goes back to the table and the damaged dress. "In my family, food was always the only luxury we could afford." "You should sell this instead of cleaning houses," says Dottie, savoring another spoonful. "My nephew Tyler always says people would pay good money for authentic food like this." A fleeting smile crosses Patty's face. "Someday, maybe. When Caleb no longer needs my help." She returns her attention to the dress. "How much would you charge me to fix it?" asks Dottie, her voice tense with worry. "The engagement party is next week, and the wedding is in 6 months. I need this dress for the pre-wedding events, and I can't afford a new one." Patty looks up from the dress. For a moment, she observes the woman in front of her. Short, plump, with badly dyed gray hair and rough hands like hers. Another invisible one, another who serves the Sterlings. "I won't charge you anything. But Patty, it's a difficult job and I don't want your money, Dottie." Patty leaves the dress on the table and looks directly into the woman's eyes. "I want your eyes and your ears." Dottie blinks confused. "My eyes and my ears? In the Sterling house. I want to know everything they talk about the wedding, every detail, every plan, every comment about Caleb or his dead mother." Understanding slowly illuminates Dottie's face. She leans forward, lowering her voice even though they are alone. "You're going to do something, right? Something against your son and that family." There is no accusation in her voice, only curiosity. Patty takes the sewing machine and places it in front of her. The mechanical hum fills the silence as she threads the needle with precision. "My son erased me from his life like one erases a mistake. He declared me dead while I work 16 hours a day to pay the debts he leaves behind." The needle pierces the pink satin with a constant, precise rhythm. "I'm not going to ruin his wedding, Dottie. I'm going to teach him a lesson he will never forget." Dottie watches Patty's hands move over the fabric. Hands with small needle scars, broom calluses, bleach marks, hands that don't give up. "I'll help you." The decision in Dottie's voice is unshakable. "Those rich people think we are invisible, that we don't hear when they talk as if we didn't exist." Patty stops sewing for a moment. "Why help me? You barely know me." Dottie unconsciously touches the wedding ring she still wears, although her husband disappeared years ago. 20 years ago, when my children were small and my husband left with another woman, I was left with nothing. No job, no money, no hope. Her eyes moisten with the memory. A woman in Spencer gave me a job at her diner. She paid me little, but she let my kids eat for free. I never forgot that kindness. Patty nods. She needs no more explanations. "The dress will be ready on Wednesday. Perfect, like new. And I will tell you every word they say in that house." Dottie moves closer, her voice barely a whisper. "They already scheduled the menu tasting for Friday. Caleb and the spoiled girl will be there. Missus. Catherine wants to impress Mr. Robert with imported lobster." Dottie looks toward the pot of stew and smiles. "Although I bet Mr. Robert would prefer this to any lobster. He has simple tastes, despite his money. His father was a mechanic, you know. He never forgets his roots." The hum of the sewing machine intensifies as Patty attacks the impossible stain on the pink dress. Her lips curve into an almost imperceptible smile. "You know, Dottie, my niece Sarah works in the laundry of the hotel where the out-of-town guests will stay. My friend John is a gardener at the grand estate, where the reception will be." Dottie smiles slowly, understanding. The invisible are everywhere. Exactly. And now we are going to use that invisibility. They spend the rest of the afternoon planning. Dottie knows the schedules, the routines, the weaknesses of the Sterling family. Patty absorbs every detail with the precision with which she sews every stitch. When the sun begins to set, the dress is almost finished, and a plan has begun to form. "I'll take it to your house on Wednesday," says Patty. "I don't want anyone to see us together near the mansion." Dottie nods and gets up to leave when the sound of a powerful engine breaks the calm of the sunset. A black BMW stops in front of the trailer. "It's him," whispers Patty, recognizing her son's car. "Quick, take the dress to the bathroom." While Dottie disappears with the pink fabric, Patty runs to hide the notes they have taken. The leather notebook where she records every detail of the plan barely disappears under a sofa cushion when the door opens without knocking. Caleb Sullivan enters like a storm, tall, handsome, dressed in clothes that cost more than the entire trailer combined. He looks around with poorly concealed disdain. "Mom." There is no affection in that word, only impatience. "Caleb." What a surprise. Patty keeps her voice neutral, although her heart beats strongly. "You didn't let me know you were coming. I need my birth certificate and social security documents, the hospital ones too, if you have them." Patty stays very still. "What do you need them for?" Caleb runs a hand through his perfectly combed hair. "Harper's father wants to review some things before the wedding." "Formalities. Lie," thinks Patty. "The detective is investigating, and you need to control the damage." They are put away. "Give me a moment." Patty goes to the small closet, aware that the notebook is barely hidden a few steps from her son. Caleb walks through the tiny living room, touching objects with his fingertips as if they could contaminate him. He stops in front of a framed photo on the dusty shelf. It captures a 7-year-old Caleb, grinning in oversized, second-hand clothes, hugging Patty's legs in front of this very trailer. It was the day she bought him ice cream instead of eating dinner herself. Caleb picks it up, his manicured fingers brushing against the glass. "You should burn this trash," he sneers, tossing the frame face down onto the table. The glass cracks. "Why are you so obsessed with displaying our misery? It's pathetic." From the closet, Patty freezes. The sound of that cracking glass echoes in her soul. It wasn't just a frame breaking. It was the last thread of her excuse-making for him. The mother who would die for him vanished, replaced by a woman who realized she had raised a monster. Her heart didn't just break. It froze over. That sound of breaking glass wasn't just a picture frame. It was the final shattering of Patty's excuses for her son. The grieving mother is gone, and in her place stands a woman ready to teach a lesson that money can't buy. You won't want to miss the plan she's about to write down. She walks out, her face a mask of terrifying calm. "Here are the documents," she says, her voice devoid of the warmth it held for 26 years. "Take them. It's the last thing you will ever take from me." Caleb grabs them, too self-absorbed to notice the shift in the atmosphere, the sudden, dangerous drop in temperature. "What is that?" Patty steps between him and the sofa with forced naturalness. "My ledger. I write down what the clients owe me." Caleb looks at her with suspicion, but the sound of water running in the bathroom distracts him. "Is someone else here?" "My neighbor came to use the bathroom. Her plumbing is broken." Caleb seems relieved. The last thing he would want is to run into his mother's poor neighbors. "I'm leaving. I have an important dinner." Without further ado, without a hug, without a thank you, he leaves the trailer. The BMW starts with an unnecessarily loud roar. When Dottie comes out of the bathroom, she finds Patty standing in the middle of the living room with the notebook already in her hands, open to a new page. "I just decided something," says Patty with a calm voice. "I'm not only going to teach my son a lesson, I'm going to teach a lesson to everyone who thinks they can treat people like us as if we were disposable." Dottie looks over her shoulder at what Patty is writing in the notebook. Necessary allies. Sarah, laundry, John, gardens, Tyler, DJ. And so, in the small trailer that never sleeps, the alliance of the invisible is born. The November rain hits the roof of the trailer with fury. 3 weeks have passed since Patty and Dottie sealed their pact. 3 weeks of information flowing like an underground river. 3 weeks of planning every detail. Patty sits at the table with an open cardboard box in front of her. Inside, dozens of old photos that Caleb would never want to see again. Caleb at 8 years old, selling newspapers on the corner. Caleb at 10 with torn shoes and patched pants. Caleb at 12 helping Patty clean houses on weekends. The phone rings with that special ringtone Patty programmed for her son. Every time she hears it, her stomach contracts into a painful knot. "Hello, Mom?" Caleb's voice sounds tense. "I'm calling you about something important." Patty feels the change in her own breathing. Shallower, more controlled. "What's happening?" "My son. I heard something disturbing." The word comes out like poison from his mouth. "Harper's mother told me that someone who looks like you has been asking details about the wedding at the Grand Estate." The silence that follows is calculated. Patty lets it extend, lets the anxiety grow on the other side of the line. "I don't know what you're talking about, son." "Mom, I was very clear with you." Caleb's voice drops to a threatening hiss. "I don't want to see you at my wedding. I don't want you asking about my wedding. I don't want you to exist that day." Outside, lightning illuminates the trailer for an instant. Patty observes the photos scattered on the table, her son smiling, poor but happy. "Where did that child go?" "Caleb, I'm your mother, the only family you have." Precisely because of that, the scream is so loud that Patty has to pull the phone away from her ear. "You are an illiterate cleaner from a filthy town. You talk like a hillbilly. You dress like a beggar. Do you have any idea who the Sterlings are? Do you know how much it has cost me to get here? I'm not going to let you ruin everything." Every word is a slap. But Patty doesn't cry. Not anymore. Her fingers graze Caleb at 15 years old, the day he won his first school scholarship. In the image, mother and son hug in front of the trailer. She wears the same worn blue dress she uses for special occasions, the only one she has. "If I see you near the church," Caleb continues, his voice now coldly controlled, "I'll drag you out screaming in front of everyone. I swear to you by the most sacred thing, the thunder that follows the lightning makes the thin walls of the trailer shake." But inside Patty, a strange calm has settled, a tranquility that comes from absolute certainty. "Don't worry, my son," she responds with a soft, almost tender voice. "I'm not going." There is a confused pause on the other side of the line. Caleb expected a fight, tears, pleas, not this immediate surrender. "What did you say?" "That I'm not going." Patty runs her fingers over the worn surface of the table. "You're right. I don't belong in that world. It would be like putting a cockroach in a jewelry box." The silence that follows has a tinge of bewilderment. Finally, Caleb speaks, his voice more relaxed. "I'm glad you understand, Mom. It's the best for everyone. I just want you to be happy, son." Patty's voice is a study of perfect resignation. "Have the life I could never give you." Another silence. It's guilt that is heard in Caleb's breathing. A moment of doubt. "I'll send you money after the honeymoon," he finally says, like someone offering crumbs to a dog. "No need. I'll manage as always. Well, I have to go. There's a dinner with the groomsmen. Good luck, son." When the call ends, Patty remains seated in the darkness of the trailer, listening to the rain. Her hands, those hands that have cleaned, sewn, hugged, and worked until they bled, now pick up the photos with an almost irreverent delicacy. She gets up and goes to the small closet. From behind some boxes, she pulls out an old album with faded artificial leather covers. She opens it on the table. It is empty, waiting. With methodical precision, Patty begins to glue the photos in chronological order. Caleb, newborn in her arms at the public hospital. Caleb taking his first steps on the cement floor of the backyard. Caleb with his first school uniform, patched but clean. While she works, the rain subsides until it becomes a whisper against the roof. The smell of glue mixes with that of the coffee that has already gone cold in the cup. Next to each photo, with small and precise handwriting, Patty writes a date and a detail. February 1996. Caleb got sick with pneumonia. I sold my wedding ring to pay for the antibiotic. August 1998, his first day of school. I worked 2 extra shifts to buy him new shoes. June 2010. He won the math contest. I couldn't go because Mrs. Jessica threatened to fire me if I missed work. Every memory, every sacrifice, every moment of pride and pain is recorded next to the images Caleb despises so much. The phone rings again. It's Dottie. "Patty, I have information. The final menu tasting is tomorrow. Mrs. Catherine will be out all afternoon. I can take photos of the guest list that is on her desk." Perfect. Patty's voice is calm, determined. "What about the DJ? Your niece made the appointment with Tyler for Wednesday. He says there will be no problem adding audio-visual surprises to the program." Patty looks at the album in front of her. The complete story of her son, the true story he strives so hard to bury. "Caleb just called me," she says. "He threatened to drag me out, screaming from the church if I dare to appear. What did you tell him that I won't go? Dottie lets out a small gasp of surprise. But Patty, the whole plan. Don't misunderstand me, Dottie. There is something new in Patty's voice, a strength that had never been there before. I won't go to the church. The church is the beginning of his perfect day. I will be at the end, when all the guests are present, when the glasses are full and the camera's ready. On the other side of the line, Dottie keeps silent for a moment. I don't understand, Patty. What are you going to do with that album? Show it to the guests. Patty glues the last photo. It's Caleb the day of his college graduation. She does not appear in the image. She couldn't attend because she had to cover an extra shift to pay for his suit. No, Dottie, I'm going to turn it into a wedding gift. The only gift my son will never forget. In the silence that follows, something becomes clear to both women. The decision is made. There will be no turning back. Outside, the rain has stopped completely. A pale moon illuminates the lonely trailer where Patty Sullivan, invisible to the world her son yearns for, patiently restores the proofs of a truth he won't be able to keep denying. Why is Patty restoring the photos Caleb hates so much? Because in those worn images is not only the past he wants to erase, it is his future. December arrives in Indiana with a cold that seeps through the cracks of the trailer. Patty finishes sewing a prom dress when she hears urgent knocking on the door. It's not even 6 inches the morning. Upon opening, she finds Dottie. Her usually jovial face is tense, pale. What's wrong? Asks Patty, letting her in. The aroma of fresh coffee mixes with the smell of dampness Dottie brings in her coat. I couldn't wait for sunrise. Dottie speaks in whispers as if the walls could hear them. Last night, after everyone went to sleep, a call came in for Caleb. Mr. Robert and the missus were already in bed, but I was cleaning the kitchen. Patty pours 2 cups of coffee. Her movements are slow, controlled, but her eyes do not leave Dottie's face. Who called? A man speaking English with a rough accent. He asked for the boy who owes money. Dottie squeezes the cup between her hands. Caleb turned white as a sheet. He went out to the garden to talk, but I opened the pantry window. What did you hear? The man gave him an ultimatum. He said he forged signatures on loans, that he has been avoiding them for months, that he has 15 days to pay $35,000 or Dottie swallows hard, or they are going to find him to settle accounts. He said something about fingers and knees. The silence that follows is dense as fog. Patty doesn't seem surprised, disappointed perhaps, but not surprised. Caleb was trembling, continues Dottie. He said he would get the money, that they shouldn't do anything stupid. He mentioned the wedding. He said afterwards he would have access to more funds. The Miller brothers, murmurs Patty. They are loan sharks from North Indianapolis. They lend to desperate college kids. If you don't pay, first they break your fingers, then worse things. Dottie looks at her with wide eyes. How do you know that Mrs. Barbara's son got involved with them? He ended up in the hospital. Patty leaves her cup on the table. Caleb mentioned where he would get the money. He said he would sell his car. But Dottie doubts that BMW belongs to Mr. Robert. He lent it to him until after the wedding. If he sells it, everyone will know something is wrong. Patty gets up and goes to the window. Outside, her old Ford Taurus rests under the cold light of dawn, the only luxury she has allowed herself in 15 years. If they catch him now, she says finally, the wedding is cancelled. The Sterlings won't want scandals. Catherine will kick him out like a sick dog. That's why I came so early. Dottie approaches her. I know your son has hurt you, Patty, but he is your blood. I thought you would want to know to help him. Patty looks at her with an indecipherable expression. I am going to help him, Dottie, but not for the reasons you think. 3 hours later, Patty is in front of the desk of Frank, owner of Frank's Cash for Cars, a junkyard on the outskirts of Spencer. The place smells of motor oil, rusty metal, and cheap cigarettes. On the walls, calendars with scantily clad women next to sports cars. $2,500, says Frank, a burly 50-year-old man with arms covered in faded tattoos. And I'm doing you a favor, Patty. That Ford has over 200,000 miles. It's worth $4,000 minimum, Frank, and you know it. With that transmission, with that rust underneath, Frank spits tobacco into a can, $3,000. My final offer. Patty feels the weight of time on her shoulders. She has no margin to haggle. $3,500, and we close right now. Frank observes her, recognizing the desperation in her eyes. Why such a rush, Patty? Problem's the money, Frank. Now, half an hour later, with a check in her purse, Patty enters the office of Fast Cash Loans, a narrow and suffocating place in downtown Spencer. The smell of cheap air freshener fails to disguise the desperation permeating the air. "Miss Sullivan," says Walter, a thin man with an artificial smile. "How much do you need this time?" $32,000. Walter's smile freezes. "That is a significant amount, well above your usual limit. I have the trailer as collateral. It's worth more than $50,000. Walter checks his computer, pretending interest in numbers he already knows. "Your history with us is impeccable," but he leans forward. "That amount carries risks. The rate would be 29% annually. If you can't pay, you will lose your home." Patty doesn't blink. "I know the risks. Can I ask what you need so much money for?" "No, you can't." 2 hours of paperwork later, Patty leaves the office with a check for $31,800 after administrative fees and the feeling of having sold her soul. At sunset, she arrives at the small bank in Spencer. She leaves with a briefcase containing $35,000 in cash. The weight of the money feels almost obscene. When she returns to the trailer, Dottie awaits her. She doesn't ask anything, seeing Patty arrive walking from the bus stop. Inside, Patty opens the briefcase on the table. The bundles of bills seem out of place in the modest dwelling. "Oh my God," whispers Dottie. "Did you sell your car? And I mortgaged the trailer. If I can't pay the loan in 18 months, I'll lose everything." "But Patty, how are you going to work without a car? How will you get to Carmel?" "I don't know." Patty's voice is flat, devoid of emotion. "I'll figure it out." Dottie observes the bills and then Patty's impassive face. "I don't understand. After everything he has done to you, why do you save him?" Patty closes the briefcase slowly. When she looks up, there is something new in her eyes, something cold, calculated. If they catch him now, he is the victim, and the wedding is cancelled. "I don't want him saved." Her voice drops to almost a whisper. "I want him free, pretty, and at that altar, so he falls from higher." Dottie backs away instinctively, as if the words had physical form. "Oh my God, Patty, that's not revenge. It's not revenge, Dottie, it's justice. Patty, take the briefcase, take me to your house. From there I will call Caleb to come pick up the money." That night, in Dottie's small house, Caleb enters like a thief. He barely greets Dottie, whom he knows from the Sterling mansion. When Patty hands him the briefcase, he opens it immediately, counting the bills with trembling fingers. "Where did you get so much money?" he asks without looking up. "I sold the car. I mortgaged the trailer." Caleb barely reacts, puts away the money, and heads to the door. "I'll pay you back every cent after the wedding. Harper will have access to her trust fund, and I don't want your money." Patty's voice cuts the air like a knife. "I just want you to be there at that altar with your expensive suit and your perfect smile." Caleb looks at her confused for an instant. Then he nods, interpreting her words as those of a proud mother. "I'll be there, Mom. It will be the most important day of my life. It will be," confirms Patty. "I assure you." When Caleb leaves, Dottie closes the door and turns to Patty. "He just left with all your security. With your future." Patty remains motionless in the center of the room. She seems smaller without the weight of the briefcase, but also more defined, as if the contours of her being had finally cleared. "You're wrong, Dottie. My future has just begun." January arrives with a cold wave that freezes even thoughts. In Patty's trailer, the old heater roars day and night, fighting against the drafts that filter through every crack. The electric bill unfolded on the table shows a figure that seems written in red ink. $278.46. Next to it, other bills form a mountain of threatening paper. Overdue mortgage, car loan that no longer exists, blood pressure medication. Patty contemplates the numbers while the wind whistles between the cracks of the window. Without a car, her life has become exponentially complicated. Now she must take 2 buses to get to the first house she cleans, waking up at 2:30 the morning to be on time. Her savings vanish like water between her fingers. The money she gave to Caleb, the $35,000 she handed over to save him from the loan sharks, the cut-in hours at one of the mansions. Everything forms a perfect storm that threatens to drown her. The phone weighs in her hand like a stone. What she is about to do hurts her to the bone, but she needs to hear it one more time. She needs that door to close permanently. She dials Caleb's number. 3 rings. 4, 5. "Mom, I'm busy." The irritation in his voice is palpable. "Son, forgive me for bothering you." Patty keeps her voice humble, pleading. "For the last time, I'm having trouble with bills this month. Since I sold the car." "Are you asking me for money?" The disbelief in Caleb's voice quickly gives way to disdain. I just need $1,000 to get through the month. I'll pay you back when $1,000. Are you crazy? Caleb's laugh is like ground glass. I can barely support myself, but the money I gave you was all my savings, all my security. The silence on the other side of the line has a tinge of impatience. That money was to save my neck, Mom, and I told you I would pay you back after the wedding. I know, but I can't wait 2 months. The mortgage, listen to me well. Caleb's voice changes to a furious whisper. I'm in the middle of a meeting with Harper's father, the man who can give me the future I deserve. I can't be dealing with your financial problems. Patty feels every word like a slap, but there is no surprise, only confirmation. Caleb, please, I'm your mother. I'm not your problem anymore, Mom, and you are no longer mine. I left that miserable life in Spencer behind a long time ago. The final blow. Patty closes her eyes. Understand it once and for all. Caleb's voice is now cold, precise like a scalpel. I have worked too hard to build this new life, to be someone respectable. I'm not going to let you drag me back to the mud. Goodbye, Mom. The click of the phone is dry. Definitive. Patty stares at the device in her hand. There are no tears. There is no trembling in her fingers. Only a strange stillness. After giving up her home and car to save his life, this cold refusal is the final nail in the coffin of their old relationship. Patty is done begging, and as she turns the page in her notebook, a new, calculated phase of justice begins to take shape. She gets up slowly and walks to the small kitchen. She takes a cup, fills it with cold coffee, and holds it between her hands without drinking. It was necessary, she says to the empty space. She walks to the table where she keeps her leather notebook, opens it to a new page, and writes with clear letters. January 15, last plea, last humiliation. Underneath she draws a thick line and then writes, End of Phase 1, Phase 2 begins. The phone rings. For a moment, Patty stands motionless thinking it could be Caleb regretful. But the screen shows Dottie's name. Patty, we have to talk. Dottie's voice sounds excited. I just heard something important. What's up? The wedding decorator, Ashley, is desperate. She needs 300 welcome bags for the guests. But her usual seamstress got sick. Patty listens with renewed attention. Who is this decorator? The best in Indianapolis, Missus. Catherine hired her because she decorated a senator's daughter's wedding. She's in a panic because the bags have to be ready in 3 weeks. The silence that follows is full of possibilities. Do you know how to contact her? Better yet, Dottie can't contain her enthusiasm. I told her about you. I told her I know the best seamstress in the whole county. I mentioned the prom dresses you make. She wants to see you tomorrow. Patty closes the notebook slowly. Did you tell her my last name? No, I just said my friend, Patty. She has no idea who you are. A slow, almost imperceptible smile curves Patty's lips. Perfect. The next day, in the downtown coffee shop of Spencer, Patty meets Ashley. She is an elegant woman in her 40s with expensive clothes and a tablet where she shows elaborate designs. These are the bags. Ashley shows photos of small navy blue silk bags with silver ribbons. Each one will carry imported Swiss chocolates and personalized cards inside. They are a crucial detail. They are beautiful, comments Patty with genuine professional admiration. The fabric is already ordered. It will arrive in 3 days. Ashley appears constantly on the verge of a nervous breakdown. Do you think you can do them? It's 300. Exactly. I can do them. Patty examines the designs with an expert eye. My work is impeccable. That's what Dottie told me. Ashley studies her more closely. Have you worked on weddings before? Many times. It's not a lie. Patty has sewn wedding dresses, fixed suits, done last-minute adjustments, always from the shadows. The wedding is extremely important. The Sterlings are. Ashley searches for the word. Demanding. I understand. Patty keeps her face perfectly neutral. Who are the bride and groom? Caleb Sullivan and Harper Sterling. He works for her father, a handsome guy who came out of nowhere and conquered the heiress. Ashley smiles conspiratorially. A true success story. Sounds romantic, says Patty. I suppose so. Ashley returns to her notes. Now, about the payment, I offer $5 per bag. That's $1,500 in total. $10 per bag. Counters Patty without blinking. Silk is difficult to work with, and I'll need an advance for the materials since I want to use high-quality lining. Ashley looks at her with new consideration. Fine. $8 per bag. That's $2,400 total. But I need them perfect. Patty nods. Deal. I'll need 50% upfront to buy the fabric today. Ashley pulls out her checkbook. While they sign a simple contract, Ashley looks at Patty with curiosity. Can I ask you something? Your hands. She points to Patty's rough and cracked hands. They aren't the typical hands of a seamstress. Patty observes them for a moment. Hands that clean other people's mansions. Hands that raised an ungrateful son. I'm also a cleaner, she says simply. I see. Ashley's interest vanishes immediately. For people like her, cleaner means invisible. When Ashley leaves, Patty remains in the coffee shop slowly drinking her tea. She takes out her notebook and writes, January 16, first access to the wedding secured. That night, in the silent trailer, Patty works under the yellowish lamp. She is not sewing, she is designing. On a sheet, she draws the schematic of a small rectangular object that would fit perfectly in a pocket. Next to it she writes, Project. Album of Truths. On another sheet she makes a list. 1. Infiltrate party. Bags. 2. Audio access. Pending. Tyler. 3. Proof of lies in process. 4. The gift that will destroy everything. Design in progress. For the first time in weeks, Patty smiles for real. She is no longer the woman who begs for crumbs of attention from her son. She is no longer the wounded mother who cries in silence. Now she is the architect of a justice no one will see coming. Outside, the January wind hits the walls of the trailer. But inside, something new has been born. Something as cold and precise as the edge of her sewing scissors, cutting a perfect pattern. The Sterling mansion gleams under the February sun like a polished jewel. Patty, on her knees on the floor of the master bathroom, scrubs the grout of the tiles with a small brush. The smell of chlorine irritates her nose while sweat runs down her back. This is her third official visit to the house. The cleaning agency assigns her regularly now, unsuspecting that it is exactly what Patty wants. In the hallway, Harper and her mother's voices approach. Patty keeps cleaning, invisible as always. The dress arrives from Milan next week, says Harper, her voice charged with enthusiasm. The dressmaker will come for final adjustments. Perfect, responds Catherine with a distracted tone. We have to discuss the guest list. Your father wants to include the governor. They pass by the bathroom without looking inside. For them, Patty is just another piece of furniture, an appliance that cleans. In the middle of the afternoon, while polishing the silver candlesticks in the main dining room, Patty watches Catherine enter her office with a folder under her arm. She closes the door, but not completely. A tiny detail no one would notice. No one except Patty. Minutes later, the house phone rings. Catherine leaves the office hurriedly, forgetting the door ajar. Her voice is lost in the hallway as she answers the call. With silent movements, Patty approaches the office and looks inside. The folder has been left on the desk. On its cover a name, Michael, Investigation. Her heart accelerates. The detective's report. Before she can decide what to do, she feels a presence at her side. It's Dottie, with a kitchen towel in her hands and eyes full of urgency. Go clean the first floor bathrooms, whispers Dottie. I'll take care of it. Without another word, Patty nods and walks away. They understand the risk, the silent complicity between invisible women. 20 minutes later, in the small cleaning supply closet under the stairs, Dottie finds Patty. I photocopied it. Her voice is barely a whisper. From her apron, she pulls out several folded sheets. The missus is in the garden talking to the landscaper. We have 5 minutes. With slightly trembling hands, Patty unfolds the pages. The report is written in professional, cold language. Subject: Caleb Sullivan, 26 years old. Place of birth: Spencer, Indiana. Father: unknown. Does not appear on birth certificate. Mother: Patricia Patty Sullivan, 45 years old. Status: alive. Occupation: domestic worker. Resident of Spencer, Indiana. Every word is a dagger. Especially that alive that underlines her son's lie. Subject grew up in conditions of extreme poverty. Trailer without basic services for years. Intermittent social assistance. The pages continue detailing every miserable aspect of his life. Public schools. Scholarships for financial need. Part-time jobs to pay for books. Everything Caleb wants to bury. The subject has current debts for $28,000 with 3 different credit card companies. Recent payment of $35,000 to unidentified creditors. Source of funds. Personal loan, guaranteed by property of Patricia Sullivan. Patty holds her breath. The detective knows everything. The last page is the most painful. Conclusion. The subject has systematically fabricated a new social identity, eliminating references to his socioeconomic and familial origin. He has falsely declared to multiple acquaintances, including the Sterling family, that his mother passed away years ago. Recommendation. Extreme caution in financial matters. Patty returns the pages to Dottie, who quickly hides them in her apron. "Did you see the handwritten note at the end?" asks Dottie. Patty shakes her head. Mrs. Catherine wrote, "Confront Caleb. Decision pending." The date is from 3 days ago. The silence between them is dense, charged with implications. "She already knows," murmurs Patty. "Catherine knows I'm alive. She knows Caleb lied. What do you think she'll do?" Before Patty can answer, they hear steps approaching. Quickly, Dottie grabs a mop and Patty grabs a bucket. When Harper passes in front of the closet, she sees them cleaning as if nothing were happening. That night, in the trailer, Patty reads the copy of the report again in the yellowish light of the lamp. She reads it over and over, memorizing every detail, every date, every exposed lie. The phone rings. "It's Dottie. Something just happened," she says without greeting. "Catherine called Caleb. He's coming over in 20 minutes. She said it's urgent that they have to talk in private." "Are they alone in the house?" "Yes, mister. Robert is in Dallas for business. Harper went to a friend's bachelorette party." Patty thinks quickly. "Can you leave your phone hidden to record the conversation?" "Better." Dottie's voice contains a note of pride. "The missus has a security system with audio in the office. My nephew works for the company that installed it. He taught me how to access it from my phone." Patty smiles for the first time in days. "Dottie, you are a treasure. Mrs. Catherine should remember that walls have ears, and those ears belong to the people she despises." 2 hours later, Patty listens to the recording with headphones sitting at her sewing table. The quality is surprisingly good. Every word is heard with crystal clarity. Catherine's voice is cold, controlled. "Caleb, I received the detective's final report. Explain to me why you told me your mother was dead when she is very much alive in Spencer." Caleb's answer takes time to arrive. When he speaks, his voice has a tremor that Patty recognizes. The tremor of the child caught in a lie. "Catherine, can I explain?" "You better, because right now I'm considering canceling this wedding. You can't do that. Harper loves me. Your husband trusts me." "Trust a liar? Someone who invents the death of his own mother? What else have you invented, Caleb?" The silence that follows is long. Patty can imagine her son calculating, looking for the most convenient exit. "The truth is complicated," says Caleb finally. "I have all night," responds Catherine. The sound of ice in a crystal glass begins to speak. In the silent trailer, Patty listens to her son's breathing through the headphones. The sound brings back memories of nights watching his sleep when he got sick, of counting his breaths when the fever went too high. Now she counts his lies. The detective's report lies on the table next to the photos of the album she builds patiently. The evidence of truth against the architecture of lies. Catherine Sterling knows Patty is alive, and tonight Caleb will have to explain why he declared her dead. "What are they going to invent now?" murmurs Patty to the silence of the trailer. The recording continues. In the elegant office of the Sterling mansion, Caleb pours himself a whiskey without asking for permission. He needs liquid courage. "My mother," he begins, but stops. He drinks a long sip. "My mother isn't what people think." "What do you mean exactly?" Catherine's voice is steely. "She's an alcoholic. She's been in and out of rehab since I can remember." In her trailer, Patty goes rigid. The lie is so unexpected, so cruel, that for an instant she struggles to breathe. She has never tasted a drop of alcohol in her life. "When I was a kid," continues Caleb, his voice gaining confidence with every lie, "she left me alone for days, sometimes without food. I had to learn to take care of myself since I was 6 years old." The creaking of the leather chair, Catherine changing position. The report doesn't mention alcoholism. "Do you think that's something she would admit to a stranger?" Caleb lets out a bitter laugh. She has an image to maintain in that hick town. The poor, abandoned single mother, the hard-working martyr. In the darkness of the trailer, Patty closes her eyes. Every word is a stab, not of pain, not anymore, of confirmation. Her son has not only erased her, he is actively destroying her. So, When I got the scholarship for college, continues Caleb, I swore I would never go back, that I would leave behind that life of misery and shame. That's why you said she had died. Catherine's voice contains skepticism. It's easier than explaining the truth, don't you think? Where is your mother, Caleb? Oh, probably unconscious in some seedy dive bar. The silence that follows is long. Patty can imagine Catherine evaluating every word, calculating risks and benefits. Do you have proof of what you say, Caleb? What kind of proof? I don't know. Medical reports. Arrests for driving drunk. Something. Another silence. The lie finds its first obstacle. Everything stayed in Spencer. I burned most of those memories. Convenient. Catherine's tone is dry, and now she is sober. Is she still drinking? The last time I saw her, Caleb's voice becomes calculatingly sad. She was bad. Very bad. She asked me for money, supposedly to pay bills, but I know it was for alcohol. The image of the $35,000 she handed over to save her son from the loan sharks crosses Patty's mind. The sacrifice of her car, of her security, converted now into another lie. This complicates things, says Catherine. Finally, Robert is sensitive about these issues. His own father fought against alcoholism. He doesn't need to know. And if she shows up at the wedding drunk making a scene, Caleb sips his whiskey. The irony goes unnoticed. She won't come. I made sure of that. How? I told her she wasn't welcome, that if she appeared I would drag her out myself. The sound of heels on wood. Catherine, walking, thinking. Robert keeps asking about your family. He wants to invite someone, anyone, so you won't be alone at the altar. There is no one. More steps, then. Catherine's voice, now closer to the hidden microphone. If Robert discovers this lie, he will cancel everything. He adores Harper. He won't allow her to marry someone who lies so creatively. He doesn't have to find out. Unless your mother appears or someone from Spencer mentions her. Caleb lets out a frustrated sigh. What do you want me to do? Confess everything? Say, sorry, I lied about my dead mother 2 months before the wedding? Silence. The tinkling of ice in crystal. A delicate sip. No, says Catherine finally. Her voice has changed. It has become conspiratorial. I think I have a better solution. I'm listening. For all intents and purposes, your mother is dead. Not just for us, for everyone. Patty leans toward the phone as if she could see through it. If anyone asks, continues Catherine, even Robert, especially Robert, your mother passed away years ago. Cancer, perhaps. Something worthy of pity, but not socially contagious. I've already been saying that, yes, but now I will confirm it. As your future mother-in-law who investigated your past out of interest in your well-being, no one will question my word. And if someone knows her, someone from Spencer, we won't invite anyone from your past, no one. And if for some reason that woman appears, she won't. If she does, insists Catherine, we will say she is an imposter, a deranged alcoholic who believes she is your mother, who has been stalking you for years. The sound of Caleb putting down his glass. Would you do that for me? Not for you? The coldness returns to Catherine's voice. For Harper? For the reputation of this family? For the perfect photos that will hang in magazines? And what happens with the detective? With his report? Michael is discreet. Very discreet, especially when you double his payment. In her trailer, Patty listens to the birth of a perverse alliance. Her name being buried alive, her existence turned into a shameful anecdote. Caleb isn't just hiding the truth anymore. He's actively destroying his mother's reputation to protect his own lies. But he has no idea that every cruel word is being recorded, fueling the storm that is about to hit his perfect wedding day. Are we agreed then? Asks Catherine. Your mother is dead. End of story. Absolutely. Good. Now there are other worrying points in the report. Your debts, for example, those $35,000 that appeared mysteriously. Patty stops the recording. She has heard enough. Her hands don't tremble when she disconnects the headphones. Her breathing is controlled, almost mechanical. She gets up and walks to the small window of the trailer. Outside, the February night is clear and cold. The stars shine with indifference over Spencer, over the trailer she might lose, over the life her son has decided to erase. The phone rings. It's Dottie. Did you hear everything? Her voice trembles with indignation. Every word. Oh my God, Patty. The things he said about you. The lies. They aren't just lies, Dottie. Patty's voice is strangely serene. They are weapons, and now they will use them against me if I appear. What are you going to do? Patty goes back to the table where the photo album waits. She opens it on the last page where she has been pasting local newspaper clippings. Small mentions of Caleb in college events, his graduation, his first job. I'm going to finish my wedding gift, but now it will be harder. They will declare you crazy if you show up. I won't show up as they expect. Patty runs her fingers over a photo of Caleb at 8 years old, holding proud his first honor diploma. I will appear exactly how and when I decide. The silence on the other side of the line is charged with worry. I have something else to tell you, says Dottie finally. The decorator Ashley called the mansion today looking for you. She wants you to deliver the bags personally at the final rehearsal. She says you are the only one she trusts to place them correctly. Patty smiles for the first time since she started listening to the recording. Perfect, she says softly. That way it hurts more when I resurrect. After hanging up, Patty sits before the small digital recorder she bought last week. She turns it on. The red light blinks waiting. My name is Patricia Sullivan, begins her voice clear and firm, and this is the story of what a mother did for the son who now denies her existence. For 2 hours, Patty speaks without pause. She narrates every sacrifice, every extra cleaning shift to pay for school uniforms, every sleepless night sewing to cover medical expenses, every meal skipped so Caleb could have new books. When she finishes, the recorder contains the complete story, the truth that belies every lie invented tonight. This recording, murmurs Patty while she puts it in the album, will be your true wedding gift, my son. Not what you expected, but what you deserve. Outside, a coyote howls in the distance. Inside the trailer, Patricia Sullivan, declared dead by her own son, finishes constructing her resurrection. March arrives in Indiana with a premature heat that transforms Patty's small trailer into an oven. The old air conditioning unit died 3 weeks ago, just as she was finishing the last bags for the wedding. It is 2 inches the afternoon on a Thursday. Patty has been sewing since 5 inches the morning after returning from cleaning 2 mansions in Carmel. Her eyes burn. Her fingers, swollen by heat and repetitive effort, can barely hold the needle. Just 30 more, she murmurs to encourage herself. The heat is suffocating, 98 degrees inside the trailer. Drops of sweat fall on the navy blue silk, forcing her to wipe them carefully so as not to stain the fabric. For days she has felt a strange pressure in her chest, a heaviness she attributes to fatigue, lack of sleep, the stress of preparations. It's just fatigue, she repeats to herself while threading the needle for the 100th time today. The hum of the sewing machine is hypnotic. Its constant rhythm marks the seconds, the minutes, the hours that pass while Patty works tirelessly. She has lost 7 pounds in the last month. Her cheeks, once rounded, are now sunken. Neighbors comment in low voices that she seems to have aged 10 years in a matter of weeks. Mrs. Sullivan is killing herself. Working, Mrs. Barbara said yesterday to her husband. And all for what if her son doesn't even call her? At 4:30, Patty feels a strange buzzing in her ears, like a swarm of bees inside her head. She stops for a moment, takes a deep breath. The swarm intensifies. I just need water, she says to the empty trailer. She gets up to go to the kitchen. The world tilts sharply. The walls of the trailer seem to move, ripple as if they were liquid. Patty grabs the table to avoid falling. The pressure in her chest increases. It is no longer heaviness. It is pain. A pain that radiates to her left arm, to her jaw. Not now, she whispers. Please. Not now. The bottle of blood pressure medication is in the bathroom. Patty tries to walk there, but her legs feel like they are made of cotton. She takes 2 steps and must lean on the wall. Her vision blurs at the edges. Black spots float in front of her eyes. With a supreme effort, she reaches the bathroom. Her trembling fingers search for the orange bottle of medication. She finds it, but cannot open the safety cap. Her hands are too weak, too numb. Please, she begs, while fighting with the bottle. Just a little more time. The bottle falls to the floor. The pills scatter on the cracked tiles of the bathroom. Patty tries to bend down to pick them up, but the movement sends a wave of nausea and pain through her body. She collapses against the wall, sliding until she is sitting on the floor. Her heart beats with such force that she can feel it against her ribs, like a caged animal fighting to escape. With clumsy fingers, she searches for her phone. It's not in her pocket. She left it next to the sewing machine. Caleb, she whispers. Help me. But her son is miles away in a world where she does not exist. In a world where his mother is conveniently dead. The black spots in her vision grow. the buzzing in her ears becomes a deafening roar. The pain in her chest is like a fist squeezing her heart. I can't die like this, she thinks with desperation. Not before finishing. With a will that defies her treacherous body, Patty begins to crawl toward the living room. Every inch is a battle. Every movement sends waves of pain through her body. The phone is so close and so far at the same time. 3 meters that seem like 3 kilometers. Her vision narrows until it becomes a dark tunnel. At the end of the tunnel, the small black rectangle of her phone. When finally her fingers touch the device, she can barely see the numbers. She dials by memory. Hello? Dottie's voice sounds distant, as if coming from another world. Dottie. Patty's voice is barely audible. I feel bad. Very bad. Patty. What's wrong? Where are you? Home. I think it's my heart. Or the pressure. I can't. The phone slips from her hand as darkness advances, consuming the edge of her consciousness. The last thing she hears is Dottie's voice screaming her name. When Patty wakes up, the sunset light filters through the trailer window. There is a damp cloth on her forehead, and Dottie's worried face hovers over her. Thank God, sighs Dottie. I thought I lost you. Patty blinks confused. She is in her bed. She doesn't remember how she got there. What happened? Severe hypertensive crisis. Doctor. Smith came to see you. He said you were about to have a stroke. Dottie adjusts the cloth on Patty's forehead. Your pressure was at 210 over 110. A little more and... Patty tries to sit up, but Dottie stops her with gentle firmness. Still, the doctor said absolute rest for at least 3 days. The bags. I already took care of it. I called Ashley and explained you were sick. She will come tomorrow to pick them up. Patty nods weakly. The pain in her chest has diminished, but it remains present like a silent warning. How did you get here so fast? I came as soon as you called me. You were unconscious. When I arrived, I called Dr. Smith and he came in 10 minutes. Dottie pauses, her expression changing subtly. I also called Caleb. Patty's heart gives a painful lurch. What did he say? Dottie looks away. He didn't answer. I left him 3 messages telling him it was an emergency, that you were very bad, that the doctor thought it could be fatal. Her voice breaks slightly. He hasn't returned the call. The silence that follows is heavy, charged with a truth that can no longer be denied. Her son has abandoned her completely. Even faced with the possibility of her death, he couldn't find a minute to call. He's busy with the wedding, says Patty, the words coming out automatically, an echo of the habit of making excuses for him. No, Patty. Dottie's voice is firm. He's not busy. He's choosing not to come. He's choosing not to call. He's choosing for you not to exist. Ignoring a call for help from his dying mother proves there is no humanity left in the man Caleb has become. This abandonment gives Patty the absolute resolve she needs for the final act. She's going to make sure her resurrection is something no one will ever forget. The words hurt more than the hypertensive crisis. They are a scalpel cutting the last thread of maternal hope. You're right, whispers Patty. You're absolutely right. The night falls over the trailer. Dottie turns on the small bedside lamp. She brings hot soup, medicine, more fresh cloths for Patty's forehead. I'll stay tonight, she says while arranging a makeshift cot next to the bed. Tomorrow my cousin comes to relieve you while I go to work. You won't be alone. Patty nods, grateful, but ashamed. You've done so much for me, Dottie. I don't know how to pay you. It's not about paying. Dottie adjusts Patty's pillows. It's about being human. About being there when someone needs you. Something your son has forgotten. At midnight, when Dottie finally falls asleep, Patty remains awake. The pain in her chest is different now. It is no longer physical, but emotional. A cold void where unconditional love for her son once was. With slow, careful movements so as not to wake Dottie, she gets up from the bed. Her legs tremble, but she manages to stand. She walks to the small mirror on the closet door. The woman staring back is a stranger, pale, gaunt, with dark circles under her eyes. She looks like a ghostly version of herself. A dead mother, she whispers to her reflection. That's what he wants me to be. Her fingers touch the cold glass of the mirror, tracing the contours of her own face. One last time I'm going to be invisible, she says to the woman in the mirror. But this time, they are going to remember my name. In the gloom of the trailer, with the sound of Dottie's breathing as her only company, Patricia Sullivan makes a pact with herself. If she is going to be on the brink of death, let it be on her terms. If she is going to disappear, And they don't know he's your nephew? Of course not. To them, he's just the local kid who plays the music. Dottie leans forward. Tyler says he can include any audio or video file in the programming without anyone noticing until it plays. Patty looks toward the blue Indiana sky. Sometimes the universe conspires in favor, not just against. Perfect, she murmurs. When can I talk to him? Tonight he'll come for dinner. The sound of a car stopping in front of the house interrupts the conversation. Rapid steps on the driveway. Ashley appears in the garden, elegant as always, with a tablet under her arm and a slightly furrowed brow. Patty, I finally found you. Ashley doesn't wait for an invitation to sit. I was so worried when Dottie told me you had been on the verge of. She stops, noticing for the first time Patty's gaunt appearance. My God, you really were bad, weren't you? I'm better now, responds Patty with serenity. The bags are ready. All of them. That's wonderful, but that's not why I came. Ashley turns on her tablet. I have a huge problem. Audrey, my main assistant, just quit. She got an offer in Chicago and left without notice. I'm sorry. The problem is that Audrey was in charge of placing the welcome bags during the reception. Ashley seems genuinely distressed. It's 300 bags that must be perfectly placed on the tables right before the guests enter. Dottie and Patty exchange a quick glance. I need someone trustworthy, continues Ashley. Someone who knows these bags, who knows how to handle them with care. Someone meticulous. I could do it, Patty offers, keeping her voice neutral, even though her heart races. That would be perfect. Ashley seems relieved. You know the work better than anyone. It would be right before the reception. The guests will be at the cocktail hour in the garden while you place the bags in the main hall. Will I have access to the entire hall? Of course. You will need at least an hour to place them correctly. Ashley pauses. I'll pay you extra, of course, and you'll have to wear my team's uniform. Black shirt, black pants, no problem. Ashley seems to study her with more attention. Are you sure you'll be recovered enough? The wedding is in 3 weeks. I'll be fine, assures Patty, hiding the slight tremor in her hand behind her back. The doctor had warned her about stress, but some things were worth the risk. When Ashley leaves, Patty remains seated in the garden, with her gaze lost on the blue bags. Dottie approaches and sits next to her. The universe is putting everything in your path, she says softly. It's not the universe. Patty touches one of the bags, feeling the smooth texture of the silk. It's that the rich never really look at those who serve them. We are interchangeable to them, invisible. And now that invisibility will be your weapon. Patty nods slowly. I will have full access to the hall before anyone enters, and your nephew will control the sound and screens. An enigmatic smile crosses her face. Only one piece is missing. That night, Tyler, Dottie's nephew, arrives at his aunt's house carrying professional audio equipment. He is a young man of 28 with short dreadlocks and intelligent eyes that seem to absorb everything. So you are the famous Miss Patty, he says while shaking her hand. My aunt won't stop talking about you. Thanks for coming, Tyler. Are you kidding? This is the most exciting thing that has happened to me since I started as a DJ, ruining a rich people's wedding from the inside. He smiles widely. It's like an Ocean's 11 movie, but with real justice. On the dining room table, Patty unfolds her plan, shows them the almost finished album, makes them listen to the recording of her voice, narrating every sacrifice, every lie, every betrayal. The system at the Grand Estate is state-of-the-art, explains Tyler. Giant screens, surround sound, synchronized lighting, everything controlled from my console. His fingers drum on the table with professional enthusiasm. I can make your voice come out of every corner of the room, have your photos appear on every screen, have the lights focus exactly where you want. And will they notice ahead of time? Asks Patty. Will they check what you have prepared? They never do. Tyler shakes his head. To them, I'm just the tech guy. They tell me, play upbeat music, and expect me to obey. They don't even check the playlist. Dottie places plates of pot roast in front of them. What about security cameras? She asks, while serving mashed potatoes. The Sterling mansion has cameras everywhere. At the Grand Estate there are too, responds Tyler. But I have access to the control room. Part of my job is to coordinate with security for the important moments. Patty takes a sip of water. Her appetite remains scarce, but her mind is sharper than ever. One last question, Tyler. If something goes wrong, if they discover us, could you lose your job? Tyler looks at his aunt and then at Patty. His expression becomes serious. "Miss Patty, when I was 10, my father abandoned us. My mother, Aunt Dottie's sister, had to raise 5 kids alone. Do you know who brought us food when we had none? Who fixed our clothes so we could go to school without shame?" He points to Dottie. "She and women like you, the invisible ones, the ones who always give without asking for anything." He pauses, his gaze intense. "If I lose this job for helping you show the truth, I'll get another one. But if I don't help you, I'll lose something much more important." That night, after Tyler leaves with a copy of the recording and the album scanned page by page, Patty sits in Dottie's small guest room. On the bed is a simple brown cardboard box. With careful, almost reverent movements, she takes out the original album. She looks at it for the last time, turning the pages slowly. Every photo, every memory, every proof of her existence and the sacrifices she made. Then, with the same care, she wraps it in simple butcher paper, the type of paper used for unimportant packages. She secures it with simple twine, not with elegant ribbon. Finally, with clear and firm handwriting, she writes on a small card, "For my son, on his most important day." While she contemplates the package so simple, so humble in appearance, Patty thinks about how appropriate it is. A gift that seems insignificant, but contains a demolishing power, just like herself. The April sun dies slowly over the elegant garden of the grand estate. Perfect rows of white chairs form an impeccable aisle, leading to the altar adorned with thousands of blue hydrangeas imported from Holland, crystal, silver, and silk everywhere. Nothing less than $300,000 in decoration for the final rehearsal of the most anticipated wedding of the year in Indianapolis. From the shade of a side pergola, Patty watches. She wears Ashley's team black uniform. Dark pants, plain shirt, staff badge hanging from her neck. No one looks at her. No one sees her. She is just another worker among dozens. The rehearsal is a parade of wealth and privilege. Relatives of the Sterlings, groomsmen in custom-made suits, bridesmaids in dresses that cost more than Patty's trailer. And in the middle of it all, Caleb, her son, smiling, handsome, completely transformed into the man he always wanted to be. "Remember," instructs the coordinator, a thin man with a British accent. After the ceremony, the bride and groom will remain for photos while the guests move to the cocktail hour in the East Garden. Then, grand entrance to the main hall for dinner. Patty memorizes every detail, every timing, every movement. Her mind functions like a precision calculator, adjusting the final details of her plan. Beside her, Ashley supervises the placement of floral arrangements. "Patty, I need you to arrive tomorrow at 4 p.m. The guests will enter the hall at 6:30. You will have 2 hours to place the bags perfectly." "I'll be there," responds Patty, without taking her eyes off her son. Caleb laughs with the groomsmen, slaps backs, accepts hugs, all the body language of someone who has finally been accepted into the circle he desperately wanted to belong to. "What do you think of the centerpieces?" asks Ashley, pointing to elaborate arrangements of white orchids. "They are beautiful," responds Patty automatically. What she really observes is how Robert Sterling, a burly man with a weathered face and hands of someone who has worked hard in his youth, hugs Caleb like the son he never had. How Catherine, slender and perfect in her pale blue dress, smiles with calculated approval. How Harper clings to Caleb's arm, marking territory. A perfect family built on perfect lies. The rehearsal continues for another hour. Patty remains in the shadows, learning the rhythm of everything. The positions, the exact moments when each person will be in each place. When it finally ends, the participants head to a private dinner at the club's restaurant. Ashley signals Patty, "You can go. See you tomorrow. Do you have a ride?" "My friend Dottie will come for me." "Excellent. Oh, I almost forgot." Ashley hands her a small box. "One of the groomsmen brought this for Caleb. Could you take it to him at the restaurant before you leave? I don't want it to get lost among so many things." Patty looks at the box. Fate sometimes has a sense of humor. Of course, with silent steps, Patty heads to the restaurant annexed to the club. Through the large windows, she can see the head table. Laughter, champagne glasses, early toasts to the wedding of the year. She approaches a waiter. "Excuse me, I have a package for Mr. Caleb Sullivan from one of the groomsmen." The waiter nods and takes the box. Patty stays close, invisible enough to observe, present enough to listen. The waiter hands the box to Caleb, who receives it with curiosity. Next to him, Harper leans in to see. "What is it, honey?" Caleb opens the box and finds another package inside, wrapped in simple brown paper and tied with ordinary twine. He frowns. How strange. He takes out the package, reads the card. For my son on his most important day. His face changes, pales slightly. He looks around nervously. Who is it from? Asks Catherine, suddenly alert. Caleb recovers his composure, forces a smile. Nobody important. He leaves the package on the table without opening it. Probably some nonsense from the old woman. What old woman? Asks one of the curious groomsmen. A former employee of my family, responds Caleb with disdain. She was always very sentimental with me, almost like a second mother. The laughter that follows is like knives for Patty. But she doesn't look away. She needs to see. She needs to hear. It's surely some horrible homemade gift, continues Caleb, pushing the package to the side. A knitted sweater or something. I'll open it later. Or never. Throw it away, suggests Catherine with a conspiratorial smile. Caleb raises his glass. To the gifts that really matter, he toasts, pointing to the Rolex that Robert has gifted him, and to leaving behind what is useless. More laughter, more champagne. The package remains forgotten at one end of the table. Patty backs away silently. She has seen enough. She has confirmed what she already knew. Her son has not only denied her, he has turned her into an object of mockery, into a joke shared with people who will never know her. Everything okay? It's Dottie waiting for her in the parking lot. Everything according to plan, responds Patty. Her voice is serene, but her eyes contain fire. During the ride back to Dottie's house, Patty remains silent, looking out the window at the lights of Indianapolis passing like shooting stars. Tomorrow is the big day, says Dottie finally. Are you ready? I am. That night, in the small guest room, Patty stands in front of the mirror. She is wearing a simple but dignified dark blue dress, the only one she has for special occasions, the one Caleb despised so many times. I don't see you as an embarrassment, my son. Her voice is clear, firm. I see you as my greatest pain and my best lesson. She looks at her reflection, smoothing the fabric of the dress. Tomorrow, she whispers to the silence. Tomorrow, silence will no longer be my language. Dottie, standing at the door, listens with tears in her eyes. Oh my God, Patty, when you say that in front of everyone, I won't cry, promises Patty, staring at herself in the mirror. I won't tremble. I won't beg. I will be exactly what he never expected. A woman with dignity. They will see you, whispers Dottie. For the first time, they will really see you. Patty turns to her, a sad smile on her lips, and that is what will hurt him the most. That finally they see me. That finally they know I exist. Caleb toasted to, leaving behind what is useless, never suspecting that the woman he discarded is about to become the most powerful person in the room. The rehearsal is over, the tears are dried, and the silence is broken. Get ready, because the wedding of the year is about to become the lesson of a lifetime. Outside, the Indiana night is clear, stars shining like silent witnesses. Inside, two women invisible to the world prepare a justice no one will see coming. Tomorrow, Patricia Sullivan will cease to be a ghost in her son's life. Tomorrow, she will resurrect in the most public and painful moment possible. And there is no power in the world that can stop her. The morning of the wedding, the Indiana sky dawns a perfect blue, as if the weather itself had been bought by the Sterlings. The grand estate bustles with activity from dawn. Gardeners, florists, waiters, sound and lighting technicians. Patty wakes up before her alarm rings. She hasn't really slept. She has just floated in a state of alert waiting for this day. She sits on the edge of the bed and touches the small photo album she has prepared as a backup, identical to the one she gave Caleb, just in case the original is lost or destroyed. Today is the day, she says to the silence of the room. At 3:30 inches the afternoon, Dottie parks her rusty sedan 2 blocks from the grand estate. Remember the plan, she says while Patty verifies her black staff uniform. I'll be in the kitchen at 6. Tyler is already inside preparing the equipment. Everything is ready, Patty nods. In her purse, she carries 3 things. The backup album, a USB drive with the recording, and a small bottle of water. Nothing else. Nothing that could arouse suspicion. Thanks for everything, Dottie. They hug briefly. No more words are necessary. Patty walks the 2 blocks to the service entrance of the grand estate. Her staff ID allows her to pass without questions. Inside, the elegant event hall is in the final phase of preparation. Crystal chandeliers glow under the natural light, entering through the huge windows. Tables with white silk tablecloths form perfect circles around a polished wood dance floor. "Patty, you finally arrived," Ashley approaches, her tablet in hand, her Bluetooth headset blinking. "The bags are in the storage room. One must be placed on each seat, exactly as the diagram shows." Patty nods. Professional, efficient, invisible. While she works meticulously placing each navy blue bag, she observes the activity around her. Waiters polishing glasses, musicians tuning instruments, and in the center of the room, Tyler installing equipment at his DJ console. Their eyes meet briefly, an imperceptible nod. At 5:15, with half of the bags placed, Patty approaches the sound booth. "Excuse me, Mr. DJ." Her voice is soft, respectful, exactly as they would expect from a worker. "Could you give me one of those bottles of water? I'm very thirsty." Tyler nods, keeping up the charade, hands her a bottle. "Sure. Ma'am, do you need anything else?" Patty slides the USB drive into Tyler's hand along with a folded paper. "The exact seating diagram," she murmurs. "And the other thing, understood." Tyler puts both in his pocket, "Everything ready on my end. The screens, the sound, the lights. The effect will be devastating. Perfect." At 5:45, Patty finishes placing the last bag. From the gardens comes the sound of classical music. The ceremony has ended. The guests enjoy the cocktail hour while the bride and groom take photos. "Excellent work, Patty." Ashley inspects the tables with a critical eye. "Everything is impeccable. You can take a break before the guests arrive." Patty nods and retreats toward the service corridor. There she finds Dottie, who has arrived with the catering team. "How is everything going?" whispers Dottie, pretending to adjust trays of canapes. "According to plan. Tyler has the material. The package is on the head table next to the other gifts." "Did you see Caleb?" "Not yet, but I will see him very soon. We all will." At 6:15, from a discreet corner of the hall, Patty watches the entry of the first guests, women with jewelry sparkling under the lights, men in custom-made suits. The aroma of expensive perfumes mixes with that of the flowers. At 6:45, the hall is full, 600 people, the most select of Indianapolis. Politicians, businessmen, local celebrities, all gathered to celebrate the union of the Sterlings with the successful young man who came out of nowhere. From her position, Patty can see the head table. The simple brown paper package stands out among elegant boxes wrapped in shiny papers and silk ribbons. It looks out of place, exactly like her. At 7, the master of ceremonies requests silence. The huge doors of the hall open. A voice announces, "Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome with a round of applause Mr. and Mrs. Caleb and Harper Sullivan." Caleb and Harper enter radiant. He in a perfect tuxedo that highlights his athletic figure. She in a wedding dress that seems straight out of a fairy tale. The crowd applauds. Camera flashes. Cheers. From the shadows, Patty watches her son. This is his moment. The highest point of his social climb. The summit of his new, fabricated life. The perfect moment for the truth. The stage is set. The guests are seated, and the trap is perfectly laid in the middle of all this luxury. As the lights go down, Caleb thinks he's reached the summit of his life, but he doesn't realize he's actually standing on the edge of a precipice. Watch closely as the curtain falls. The dinner passes between elegant toasts and sophisticated conversations. At 8:30, while dessert is served, the master of ceremonies approaches the microphone again. "Ladies and gentlemen, the time has come for the gifts." Elegantly dressed assistants begin bringing presents to the head table. Caleb and Harper open some. Expensive glassware, jewelry, works of art. Tyler catches Patty's eye from the console. He holds up 3 fingers. 3 minutes. Patty's heart beats strongly, but her face remains serene. She has rehearsed this moment for months. She has sacrificed everything for this final act of justice. The master of ceremonies picks up the brown paper package, and now, a very special gift. It has no sender card. It just says, "For my son on his most important day." Caleb tenses visibly, looks around nervously. Catherine leans toward him, whispering something in his ear. "Come on," Caleb encourages Robert. "Open it. It looks interesting." With slightly trembling fingers, Caleb unties the twine, undoes the simple paper wrapping, reveals the worn leather album. "What is it?" asks Harper, curious. Caleb opens the album. His face loses color instantly. At that moment, the lights in the hall change, dimming slightly. The huge screens destined to show videos of the couple turn on simultaneously. The master of ceremonies, confused, looks toward the sound booth. Tyler pretends to adjust controls as if it were part of the program. And now, announces the master without knowing what is coming. A special gift from the secret godmother. The first photo appears on the giant screens. It is Caleb at 5 years old, with patched clothes in front of a deteriorated trailer. Next to him, a young Patty, with the same blue dress she now keeps for special occasions. Silence falls over the hall like a heavy blanket. And then Patty's voice, clear and firm, begins to sound through the speakers. My name is Patricia Sullivan, and this is the story of the son who declared me dead. From her corner in the shadows, Patty watches as her son's face transforms into a mask of horror. The moment of truth has arrived, and no one is prepared for what is coming. The banquet hall falls into absolute silence. 600 breaths held. 600 pairs of eyes fixed on the giant screens where a hungry-faced child looks directly at the camera. January 2004, says Patty's voice over the speakers. Caleb was 6 years old. We hadn't eaten in 2 days because I got sick with pneumonia and couldn't work. This photo was taken by the social worker who came to check why my son was missing school. The image changes. Now it is Caleb at 8 years old selling newspapers on a dusty corner. Summer of 2006. Caleb sold newspapers on Sundays to buy his own school supplies. I cleaned 6 houses a week, but it wasn't enough for everything. At the head table, Caleb has dropped the album. His face is a mask of horror. Beside him, Harper looks alternately at her new husband and the screens, confusion and alarm drawing on her perfect features. Stop that right now, screams Caleb, standing up so abruptly he knocks over his chair. His voice resonates in the silent hall, amplified by the collective shock. No one moves, no one speaks. All eyes oscillate between the screens and the groom who seems about to crumble. Caleb runs toward the sound booth where Tyler pretends to desperately manipulate the controls. Stop that right now! Caleb screams again. He runs toward the sound booth, but 2 security guards instinctively step in his way, blocking access to the equipment. Caleb tries to go around them. Turn that off! Caleb's voice is unrecognizable, shrill with panic. Tyler shouts back, pretending. The system is jammed, sir. It's not responding to commands. Caleb is about to force his way past the guards when Robert Sterling's voice resonates with absolute authority. Nobody touches anything! Robert Sterling stands up. His face isn't shocked like the others. It's grim, resigned. He raises a hand in an imperious gesture, stopping security. Let it play, he orders, his voice cold as ice. I want to see if the report I found in my wife's safe matches what's on that screen. The guards relax but maintain their position. Robert, please, he pleads with a weak voice. It's a joke in bad taste. A lie. Robert looks at him with eyes that reveal no emotion. Sit down, Caleb. It is not a suggestion. It is an order coming from the man who owns 3 car dealerships, 2 buildings in downtown Indianapolis, and political connections throughout the state. Caleb slowly returns to the head table, like a condemned man walking to the gallows. His legs seem to barely support him. On the screens, the images keep changing one after another. The real life of Caleb Sullivan, deployed for all of Indianapolis to contemplate. July 2006, narrates Patty. Caleb obtained his first full scholarship. I sold the only gold earrings I had, my mother's inheritance, to buy him the suit he wore to the interview. The image shows a teenage Caleb, with an evidently cheap but carefully ironed suit, smiling with pride in front of the trailer. I couldn't accompany him to the award ceremony because Mrs. Jessica threatened to fire me if I missed cleaning her house that day. From her position in the shadows, Patty sees an elegant woman at table 5 sink into her seat. It's Mrs. Jessica, who never looked her in the eye in 15 years of service. March 2010. Caleb was accepted into Indiana University. I worked double shifts cleaning offices at night to help him with the expenses the scholarship didn't cover. The photo shows a more mature Caleb with the acceptance letter in his hands. His smile is radiant. Next to him, Patty looks exhausted but proud in her eternal blue dress. The silence in the hall is so deep that the hum of the air conditioning system can be heard. No one touches their food. No one drinks. 600 guests are now involuntary witnesses to a truth they never expected to know. Catherine Sterling, pale as porcelain, tries to speak to her husband. Robert, this is clearly a... Silence, he orders without looking at her. The images continue. Caleb graduating. Patty absent because she was working. Caleb getting his first job. Patty celebrating alone in the trailer with a small candle on a cupcake. And then Patty's voice changes slightly, becomes more intense, though maintains its temperance. And then, my son began to reinvent himself, to create a new story, one where I didn't exist. The screen shows screenshots from social media. Caleb at elegant parties, Caleb with expensive clothes, Caleb with the first sterlings he met. In no photo is there a reference to his mother, his past, his origin. Little by little, continues Patty, my son erased me, first from his photos, then from his conversations, finally, from his life. At the head table, Caleb has his gaze fixed on the white tablecloth. He cannot raise his eyes. He cannot face the 600 witnesses of his lie. Patty's voice then reaches the crucial moment. The day my son called to tell me I couldn't attend his wedding, his exact words were, "Mom, you embarrass me with your clothes and the way you talk." A murmur of commotion runs through the hall. Some older women bring handkerchiefs to their eyes. Some men look at Caleb with poorly concealed contempt. When I begged him to let me be there even in a corner, he threatened me. "If I see you near the church, I'll drag you out screaming in front of everyone." The screen now shows an image of the lonely trailer under the rain. The last photo. And when he needed $35,000 to pay debts to dangerous loan sharks, I sold my only car and mortgaged my home to save him. A month later, when I asked for help because I couldn't pay my bills, he told me, "I'm not your problem anymore, Mom, and you are no longer mine." The voice pauses. The image on the screen changes to a last photograph. Patty in her hospital bed, pale with oxygen tubes after her hypertensive crisis. "My name is Patricia Sullivan. I am alive. I am not an alcoholic. I did not abandon my son. I raised him alone with these hands that have cleaned other people's houses for 20 years. These hands that he doesn't want his rich friends to see." A choked sob is heard from somewhere in the hall. Someone drops a glass that breaks against the marble floor. "I am not here to ruin my son's happiness," concludes Patty's voice. "I am here so that the truth is also invited to this wedding." The last image fades. The lights in the hall slowly return to normal intensity. A thick silence, almost tangible, envelops the 600 guests, and then, from the back of the hall, a figure moves. A middle-aged woman in a simple blue dress walks slowly toward the head table. Her posture is upright, dignified. Her eyes, tired but firm, fixed on the son who denied her. Patricia Sullivan has ceased to be invisible. The path to the head table seems endless. Every step of Patty on the polished marble resonates in the sepulchral silence that has fallen over the hall. No one breathes, no one moves. It is as if time itself had been suspended. Caleb keeps his gaze fixed on the table. He cannot raise his eyes. He cannot face the reality advancing inexorably toward him. Harper, the brand new bride, has begun to tremble visibly. Her perfect face contorts in a mixture of confusion and horror, seeing that the woman in the video, her husband's dead mother, walks alive toward them. Catherine Sterling seems to have aged 10 years in 10 minutes. Her impeccable makeup fails to hide the deathly pallor that has invaded her face. With trembling fingers, she grabs her husband's arm. "Robert," she whispers urgently. "This is clearly a montage, some kind of extortion. That woman cannot be." "Shut up, Catherine." Robert's voice is low, but sharp as a razor blade. He pulls a folded, crumpled document from his inner tuxedo pocket. "I paid the detective weeks ago, but the report mysteriously never reached my desk until tonight, when I found it hidden in your safe." He glares at his wife. "I read it just before we entered the hall. I was praying it was a mistake, but seeing Mrs. Sullivan here confirms everything." Robert keeps his gaze fixed on Patty. "I know the look of someone who has fought from the bottom. I recognize it because I see it every morning in my mirror." At the head table, Caleb finally looks up. His red and wet eyes meet his mother's for the first time. Recognition, fear, shame, everything mixes in his devastated expression. Patty finally arrives in front of the table. 600 pairs of eyes observe her. For the first time in her life, Patricia Sullivan has the full attention of those who always ignored her. "Caleb," she says simply. Her voice, amplified by the microphone that some thoughtful technician has placed nearby, resonates in the hall. It is the same voice from the video, the same temperance, the same dignity. Caleb opens his mouth, but no sound comes out. It is as if all words, all excuses, all lies had evaporated from his throat. "I didn't come to ruin your wedding," continues Patty. "I came to bring the only thing you forgot to take to the altar, the truth of who raised you." Today everyone knows who the embarrassment is, and it isn't me. A strangled sob escapes Caleb's throat. Tears begin to run down his cheeks. They are not tears calculated to generate sympathy. They are the uncontrolled crying of someone whose elaborate facade has crumbled completely. "Mom," he manages to articulate finally. I'm sorry." Patty looks at him without blinking. There is no hatred in her eyes, no vengeful triumph, only infinite sadness and unshakable determination. "You don't feel it yet," she responds softly. "But you will." Harper stands up abruptly, wobbling on her designer heels. "Is it true?" she demands, looking alternately at Caleb and Patty. "Everything about your dead mother, about the poverty, everything was a lie?" Caleb cannot hold her gaze. "Harper, I can explain." "Explain what?" Harper's voice breaks into a hysterical scream. "I married a complete stranger hours ago." Robert Sterling stands up slowly. His imposing figure attracts all eyes. "Mrs. Sullivan," he says, addressing Patty with a respect that surprises everyone present. "I want you to know that I was never part of this farce." Patty nods slightly. "I know, Mr. Robert. You are not in the album." "The album." Robert looks at the small leather book lying forgotten on the table. "Every lie," explains Patty. "Every time my son denied who he was, who I am, was recorded with dates, with witnesses." Robert takes the album and opens it. He begins to turn the pages slowly. His expression changes from curiosity to disbelief, then to contained fury. On one page there are screenshots of conversations between Caleb and Catherine, planning how to keep the dead mother lie. "This is true, Catherine?" Robert's voice is now dangerously calm. Catherine tries to maintain composure, but her voice trembles. "Robert, you have to understand. The family image. The wedding. The photos. Answer the question, Catherine. You and Caleb conspired to maintain this lie. To exclude his living mother from her own son's wedding?" The silence that follows is answer enough. Robert closes the album with a dry slam that makes several guests jump. "Mrs. Sullivan," he says, turning to Patty, "I owe you an apology. If I had known—" "You suspected it," interrupts Patty softly. "The detective told you everything, but your wife and daughter convinced you to look the other way, because it was more convenient to have a son-in-law well-dressed in lies than an honest one with a poor past." Robert takes the blow, nods slowly. "You are absolutely right, and that is why my shame is even greater." He turns to the guests who remain in their seats, hypnotized by the drama unfolding before them. "Ladies and gentlemen," he announces with a powerful voice, "this celebration is over." A murmur runs through the hall. No one gets up yet, too stunned to process what they are witnessing. Caleb falls to his knees, no longer trying to contain the crying. His entire body shakes with uncontrolled sobs while he grabs the fabric of Harper's wedding dress. "Please," he pleads. "We can fix this. We can start over. I'll explain everything." Harper looks at him as if he were a stranger, an intruder, an imposter. "I don't know you," she says finally, her voice barely a whisper. "I never really knew you." She takes off her wedding ring and drops it on the table. The small circle of platinum and diamonds makes a metallic sound when bouncing, an audible period to a union that had barely begun. Harper turns to her mother, her eyes blazing with betrayal. "And you knew?" she hisses, her voice dripping with venom. "You let me marry a fraud just to save face? You are just as fake as he is." She turns her back on both of them, walking away from the table, leaving Catherine stunned and isolated. Catherine, seeing her carefully constructed social world crumble before her eyes, makes one last desperate attempt. "This is ridiculous," she says, forcing a laugh that sounds hollow. "We are giving too much importance to some old photographs. We all have a past. The important thing is who Caleb is now, not who he was." Patty steps forward, her presence dominating the room. She doesn't look like a victim. She looks like a judge. "You are absolutely right, Mrs. Sterling. Let's look at who he is now." She points a calloused finger at Caleb, who is sobbing on the floor. "He is a man who stands on a foundation built by these hands." She raises her worn, scarred hands for the cameras and the guests to see. "I scrubbed toilets so he could hold books. I went hungry so he could wear suits. And his gratitude was to bury me alive." She turns to the silent crowd. "Poverty is hard, but it is not shameful. Shame is wearing a tuxedo bought with your mother's blood while you laugh at her sacrifice. Shame is erasing the woman who gave you life just to fit into a world that doesn't actually care about you. It's a powerful moment of justice, stripping away the expensive facade to reveal the ugly truth underneath. But now that the wedding is in ruins and the truth is finally out, can a relationship this broken ever be fixed? The answer might surprise you. She looks down at Catherine, her voice dropping to a whisper that screams, "And you, who helped him dig my grave just to keep your photos pretty, you aren't a mother. You're an accomplice." Patty looks her directly in the eyes for the first time. Robert looks at his wife with a new understanding, one that promises long and painful conversations in their future. From the floor, Caleb tries to speak between sobs. "Mom, I didn't know what I was doing. I was blinded." "Please." Patty looks at him. In her eyes there is infinite pain, but also an unshakable resolution. "You were always my pride, Caleb. Every sacrifice, every sleepless night, every meal I skipped so you would have books. It was all worth it because you were my son." Her voice breaks slightly for the first time. "But today, I don't recognize you. The son I raised would never have denied his origin, would never have been ashamed of his mother." Caleb collapses completely. His body convulses with sobs that seem torn from the deepest part of his being. Nothing remains of the polished facade of the successful young executive. Only a broken child who has lost the most unconditional love he will ever have. Robert approaches Patty and offers her his arm. A gesture of respect no one in the hall expected to see. "Mrs. Sullivan, allow me to accompany you. I think you and I have a lot to talk about." Patty looks one last time at her son, who remains on his knees, destroyed, unrecognizable in his pain and shame. Then she accepts Robert's arm with the dignity of a queen. While they walk away from the head table, guests begin to stand up silently, leaving the hall in small groups. No one speaks, no one comments. The shock is too great, the drama too personal, the lesson too painful. Catherine remains seated alone, her social empire crumbling before her eyes. Harper is standing, motionless, looking at the stranger she thought she knew well enough to make her husband. And Caleb, the boy who wanted to erase his past, who was ashamed of his origin, who denied the woman who gave everything for him, cries inconsolably on the white tablecloth imported from Italy, his tears mixing with the spilled French champagne. The truth, that unexpected guest, has finally arrived at the wedding, and no one who is present will ever forget its devastating power. The silence at the grand estate is absolute. Not even the waiters dare to move. The clinking of a spoon against glass would sound like thunder in that expectant void. 600 people hold their breath while contemplating the drama unfolding before them. Caleb Sullivan, the radiant groom of just an hour ago, is now reduced to a trembling figure at the head table. His face, previously secure and arrogant, is now a mask of terror and shame. The proofs of his lie projected on giant screens, the truth of his humble origin exposed like a dental nerve to the air. And in the middle of the hall, Patricia Sullivan remains standing. She wears no expensive jewelry or designer dress, only her simple blue dress, the same one appearing in some of the projected photographs. The dress Caleb so many times asked her not to wear because it looked poor. Patty takes one more step toward the head table. Her posture is perfectly erect. Her shoulders, which have carried the weight of poverty, discrimination, and abandonment, do not bow even a millimeter. "You declared me dead," she says with a clear voice resonating in the hall. She needs no microphone. The silence is so deep that every syllable is heard to the last corner. "You told everyone I didn't exist while I paid your debts with loan sharks." Caleb tries to speak, but his voice breaks into a strangled sob. Tears run freely down his face, ruining the subtle makeup the stylist applied that morning for the wedding photographs. "Mom," he manages to articulate finally, "forgive me. I was wrong. I was blind." "Please," Patty looks at him without blinking. In her eyes there is no hatred, no vengeful pleasure, only crystalline clarity, the look of someone who has finally freed herself. "I didn't come to ruin the wedding," says her firm voice, but without stridency. "I came to bring the only thing my son forgot to take to the altar, the truth of who raised him. Today, everyone knows who the embarrassment is, and it isn't me." The impact of her words travels through the hall like a shockwave. Several older women nod imperceptibly. An old man at table 3 wipes a furtive tear. A young Latina waitress drops her tray of glasses, but no one turns to look at her. All eyes remain fixed on the central confrontation. Caleb falls to his knees. It is not a gesture calculated to generate pity. It is the total collapse of a man whose entire life built on lies crumbles like a house of cards. "I beg you," he sobs, crawling toward his mother. His hands, which hours before held his bride's firmly during marriage vows, now tremble uncontrollably while trying to reach the hem of the blue dress. "I'll do whatever. Whatever you ask. I'll buy you a house. I'll give you money. Whatever you want." Patty takes a small step back, preventing her son's hands from touching her. It is not a gesture of disgust or violent rejection. It is simply a border establishing a clear limit. "I don't want your money, Caleb," she responds with a calm that contrasts brutally with her son's hysterical crying. "I never wanted it." She turns slightly, so her voice reaches every corner of the hall. She isn't speaking only to Caleb now. She is speaking to every person present, to every rich person who ever made her feel invisible. "For 20 years I cleaned your houses, cared for your children, washed your clothes, prepared your food, and you didn't even know my name." Several guests look down, unable to hold the weight of that truth. "My son learned from you," continues Patty. "He learned that people like me are disposable, invisible, that our rough hands and our accent are a source of shame." Harper, who has remained paralyzed next to the table, begins to cry silently. Her wedding dress, a $15,000 creation, suddenly seems obscene in its ostentation. "I didn't teach you that, my son," says Patty, turning her gaze back to Caleb. "I taught you to have pride even if we were poor, to keep your head high, even if we had worn hands, to tell the truth even if it hurt." Caleb collapses completely. His body convulses with sobs that seem to tear his soul. There is no longer pretense, no facade, no control. "Forgive me," he repeats over and over, the words barely recognizable between the crying. "Mom, please, forgive me." Robert Sterling, who has observed everything with an impenetrable expression, approaches Patty. "Mrs. Sullivan," he says with a grave but respectful voice, "what you have revealed today, what my family has allowed." He pauses, looking for the right words. "There is no excuse. I can only offer my deepest apology." Patty nods slightly, acknowledging his words. "Thank you, Mr. Robert. But it is not to me that you owe apologies. To whom then? To everyone who works for you and is treated like shadows. To everyone who makes your companies run but isn't invited to your parties. To everyone who, like me, is declared dead in life for convenience." Robert receives the impact of these words like a man accustomed to facing difficult truths. He nods gravely. "You are absolutely right. And I assure you, there will be changes." Catherine attempts a last desperate intervention. "This is absurd. We are allowing this woman to ruin the most important wedding of the year over a simple family misunderstanding." "Silence," Catherine orders Robert with a hardness that makes his wife recoil physically. "Mrs. Sullivan has shown more class today than you in 30 years of marriage." A murmur runs through the hall. The powerful Robert Sterling taking sides with the cleaner against his own wife. Caleb remains on his knees, destroyed, unable even to stand up. Between sobs, he extends his hands toward his mother in a gesture of universal supplication. "I beg you, give me another chance. I'll do whatever." Whatever. Patty looks at him for a long moment. In her eyes there is pain, but also something else. Something that looks like determination. "Forgiveness," she says finally, "is not begged for. It is earned." She takes a step back, moving away from the head table, from her kneeling son, from the chaos the truth has unleashed. "When you are ready to earn it for real, you will know where to find me." And with these words, Patricia Sullivan turns around. There is no drama in her gesture. There is no theater. Only the quiet dignity of a woman who has finally been seen. She walks slowly down the central aisle of the hall. The guests step aside instinctively, opening a path. Some bow their heads as she passes, as if before a queen. Others look at her with astonishment, as if contemplating an inexplicable natural phenomenon. Dottie joins her silently from the side. Tyler, the DJ, abandons his post without worrying about the equipment. Together, the three invisible ones who made the truth visible walk toward the main door. Behind them, Caleb's inconsolable crying resonates in the hall like the echo of a broken heart, not for losing his bride, nor his status, nor his future in the Sterling Company, but for losing the only thing that really mattered and he never knew how to value. The unconditional love of a mother who gave everything for him. While Patty crosses the doors of the grand estate, a silent question remains floating in the air, in the minds of everyone present. Will she ever accept his apology? The answer only time will tell. And time, as Patty Sullivan just demonstrated, always reveals the truth. Walking away from her sobbing son wasn't an act of cruelty. It was the ultimate act of tough love. Patty left that mansion not as a victim, but as a queen who finally claimed her crown. But did Caleb ever rise from the ashes of his lies to earn the forgiveness she spoke of? Let's fast forward to see if he truly learned his lesson. The Indiana sun shines brightly on the colorful food truck, parked strategically in the central square of Spencer. Patty's real comfort proclaims the hand-painted sign in bright red and emerald green. Underneath, in smaller letters, honest food from hard-working hands. It is Saturday noon, and the line in front of the truck extends for half a block. Tourists, locals, entire families wait patiently for what the Indianapolis Star recently described as the most authentic and emotional culinary experience in the county. Inside the reduced but immaculate space, Patty Sullivan works with surgeon-like precision. Her hands, still marked by years of hard work, now move with visible pride as she prepares pot roast sandwiches, mac and cheese, and chili that make those who taste them close their eyes with pleasure. 2 brisket specials for table 4, she announces with a firm voice. From the back of the truck, next to the industrial sink, a man of about 27 looks up and nods. Right away, boss. It's Caleb. Nothing remains of the pretentious executive from a year ago. His hair is shorter, his face thinner but healthy. He wears a simple apron over jeans and a t-shirt. His hands are red from washing dishes for hours, but there is no shame in his gaze when he shows them. He has been working like this for 11 months, first as a dishwasher, then as a kitchen helper, earning every penny, every ounce of respect, every minimal smile of approval from his mother. Through the small window of the food truck, you can see the park bench where mother and son had their reunion, 3 months after the devastated wedding. After Caleb sold his luxury watch, his designer wardrobe, his apartment in Indianapolis, after he returned every last penny of the money Patty had sacrificed for him, he had arrived with only a backpack and the clothes he was wearing. I didn't come to ask for forgiveness. Those were his first words after months of silence. I came to earn it. If you give me the chance. Patty had looked at him for a long time, searching in his eyes for the sincerity only a mother can detect. The hardest work, the lowest salary, no privileges, no excuses, had been her only answer. And so began the redemption of Caleb Sullivan, cleaning bathrooms in the restaurant where Patty had gotten a job as a cook, sleeping on an inflatable mattress in Dottie's living room because his mother had lost the trailer to save him from the loan sharks. For 8 full months, Patty didn't call him son, only Caleb or boy. He accepted this distance as part of his penance. He didn't protest, didn't complain, worked harder than anyone with the same determination he had previously put into climbing socially, but now directed at repairing the damage caused. The small bell of the food truck door rings. Dottie enters radiant with her uniform, proclaiming partner and godmother on the chest pocket. We have a full house and 3 event reservations this month, she announces, waving her tablet. The Harvest Festival wants us to be the official providers. Patty smiles briefly while turning a burger on the griddle. We'll need extra help. My nephew Tyler can bring 2 friends from college, suggests Dottie. Good boys, hard-working. The food truck had been Robert Sterling's idea. 4 months after the failed wedding, he had appeared at the restaurant where Patty cooked. Mrs. Sullivan, he had said without preamble, I have tasted your food 3 times this week. Disguised so you wouldn't recognize me. It is extraordinary. Patty had nodded, accepting the compliment with dignity. I have a business proposal, continued Robert. It's not charity, it's investment. And so Patty's real comfort was born. A fully equipped food truck with Patty as majority owner, Dottie as partner, and Robert as a silent investor who never interfered, but always paid for his food like any other customer. Order ready for table 6, announces Caleb, placing 2 perfectly mounted plates in the service window. Patty inspects them with a critical eye. After so much time, this is the first week she has allowed her son to prepare dishes, not just wash them. Well done, she says simply, but those 2 words make Caleb light up, as if he had been handed a trophy. The door opens again. An elegant woman enters, visibly uncomfortable in the reduced space. It's Catherine Sterling. The year has left marks on her face that not even Botox can hide. The wedding scandal destroyed her social position. The divorce that followed finished off what was left of her pride. Mrs. Sullivan, she says with a controlled voice. Table for 1, please. It is the 4th time she comes in 2 months. Always alone, always humble in her attitude. Your table will be ready in 5 minutes, responds Patty with neutral professionalism. without disdain, without triumphalism, simply with the dignity of someone who no longer needs to prove anything. The door opens again. This time, it is Harper Sterling. After canceling the wedding, she disappeared for 6 months in Europe. Now she works in her father's companies, not as a decorative figure, but as an executive in training. She comes to the food truck every week, almost always accompanied by young executives whom she wants to impress with authentic food. "Hi, Patty," she greets with a genuine smile. "I reserved for 6. Today I'm bringing the whole marketing department." Patty nods and points to the large table on the outdoor terrace. Caleb tenses visibly upon seeing his ex-fiancée, but continues working without saying a word. The day advances with the intense rhythm of food service. Every dish that comes out of Patty's hands is perfect. Every customer leaves satisfied. Tips accumulate in the glass jar that has college fund written on it. "Who is that fund for?" a curious customer once asked. "For the children of our employees," Patty had answered, "and so that no one has to choose between studying or eating." At sunset, when the last customer has left and the food truck falls silent, Caleb finishes cleaning the kitchen until it sparkles. It is the last task of the day, the one he always insists on doing personally. "All ready, Mom," he says, taking off his apron. It has been only 3 months since Patty allowed him to call her that again. It was after he handed her the key to a modest rental apartment he had secured for her, using every cent of his tips to pay the deposit and the first 6 months of rent, promising her that one day he would buy her a real house again. "Tomorrow I'll arrive an hour early," continues Caleb. "I want to prepare the dough for the special biscuits." Patty nods while counting the register. It has been a good day, the best since they opened. Caleb takes his jacket and heads to the door. He lives in a small apartment 3 blocks away that he shares with Tyler. Nothing to do with the luxurious condo he had when working for the Sterlings. "See you tomorrow, Mom." Patty looks up from the cash register. "Caleb," she calls before he leaves. "I'm proud of you, really." The young man stands motionless for an instant. They are the words he has waited to hear for almost a year. The words that are worth more than all college degrees, than all corporate promotions, than all social applause he ever chased. "Thank you," responds his slightly broken voice. "I'm also proud of you. I always should have been." When Caleb is gone, Patty takes a small bouquet of fresh flowers from the fridge. She buys them every week at the local market. With deliberate movements, she places them in the center of the small table where she usually sits to rest between services. The only luxury she allows herself. Dottie observes her from the door. "Another successful day," comments with satisfaction. "The best," confirms Patty. And then it happens. Slow at first, like a sunrise, then expanding like sunlight, finally breaking through the clouds after a devastating storm. Patty Sullivan smiles. It is not the polite smile she offers customers. It is not the contained smile she gives Caleb when he does something right. It is a complete, radiant smile that reaches her eyes and seems to illuminate her entire being. It is the smile of a woman who has gone through hell and emerged not only intact, but strengthened. It took losing everything for Caleb to finally understand the value of honest work and a mother's love. It's a hard-earned redemption, proving that sometimes you have to hit rock bottom to build a foundation that actually lasts. Of a woman who has turned humiliation into dignity, invisibility into undeniable presence, other people's shame into self-pride. "You know what?" says Patty, looking at the food truck that is now her kingdom. It was worth it. Patty's Real Comfort food truck is bustling with customers these days. But what really grabs attention isn't just the delicious food, it's the sight of the young man working in the back kitchen. Caleb, once the polished executive, now wears an apron. His hands are red from dishwater and calloused from wielding a chef's knife. He lost $1 million wedding and his designer suits. But in return, he found his mother's smile of pride, something the sterling fortune could never buy. Patty taught her son life's greatest lesson. Hands soiled by honest labor are worth 1,000 times more than clean hands stained by lies. Her revenge wasn't about destruction. It was about the rebirth of the son she once knew. And you? If you were in Patty's shoes, would you have the courage to expose your own son in front of 600 people? Or would you have chosen to suffer in silence? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss our next heartwarming story. Thank you, and see you next time.